And we're live. Good evening, Shifties. Welcome back to Shift the Journey. I'm your host, Tito Amogus. We are on episode 59. I can't even really hardly believe it. Man, 59. And we're coming up on the end of season 2. Next week is going to be episode 60, and that will be the end of season 2. I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, you know, somebody was asking me about the show, and I was like, yeah, I came up with this thought when I was on somebody else's show, on like a LinkedIn Live in the middle of the day. In the middle of the day, it was like lunchtime or something, and I got permission because it was put on by the company I used to work for. And I was like, man, I'd really like to host something like this, but I couldn't think of any one like topic or theme. But the thing that always keeps coming up, especially being in data, is that people are trying to find their way from here to there into different careers, right? And so I came up with this thought, and I was like, hey, we're going to do Shift the Journey, and we're going to talk about people's career journeys. And so today on episode 59, we have Mike Lamond. Mike is a retired Chief Master Sergeant from the United States Air Force. Woohoo! Go Air
Hoorah.
Force. And we're just gonna have a chat. So, Mike, where are you from originally?
Originally born and raised in Bergenfield, New Jersey, up north.
Bergenfield, New Jersey. And so, like, when you were going through high school, did you have somebody you looked up to that you said, you know what, I want to join the military, I want to be like you, or was
No.
it something
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah,
no?
but no, I mean, so growing up very lower middle class in New Jersey, and um had a brother and three sisters. Kind of really didn't have a lot of direction. Like I was a good soccer player in high school, had some offers to go to college. Didn't have a lot of guidance as far as what to do. I had a coach. My coach in high school was awesome, but like most rambunctious teenagers, you're not listening to anybody that's of authority, right?
Yeah.
My dad never went to college, never went to high school, so he wasn't there for the journey as far as, hey, here's what you need to do to prepare. So yeah, to be honest with you, what sparked my interest in the Air Force was the kickoff of the Gulf War.
Oh,
So
really? It's
yeah,
interesting.
that summer, right, the buildup was going on, and my best friend from high school called me and he goes, "Hey, I'm joining the Marines, and they got a buddy program, and you should join with me." And I said, "No." Respectfully, thank you, but no. Got a lot of respect for the Marines, but I still wasn't where I thought I was going to be. I was working for a trucking company, and making pretty good money in the union. Uh, and then a couple of weeks later, I guess the thought just fermented in my head. And I had gone as a sophomore in high school to an Air Force recruiter with one of my friends. Sat in the background, didn't think anything of it. And then all of a sudden it hit me in this rush of patriotism, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The very next day, I go to the Air Force recruiter. He says, "Well, what are you looking to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm looking to join as soon as I can." He goes, "Good, because we have spots for you." Took the ASVAB. Three weeks later, Tito, I'm in basic training.
Get out of here. Did you have a
I,
guaranteed job or
I did
what?
as a TMO troop. I was a traffic
Okay.
management specialist.
Okay.
Yeah, because
All
as
right.
I was coming in, I went through MEPS. I was colorblind. So I got
Oh,
canked from a lot of jobs, like all the maintenance
yeah.
jobs, any kind of jobs that have
Yeah. Electronics.
wires,
Yeah.
the really important stuff.
Yeah. No
I,
EOD
I
for
couldn't
you,
be I
right?
couldn't be a
It's like, yeah,
defender.
we
I couldn't
need
be any of that. No, that's no. I could have been a bus driver. I could have been in MWR at the time. I could have been supply. I drove traffic management. It actually it all worked out, but yeah, that was
yeah.
my
Yeah.
inspiration for joining.
So how many years total did you serve?
29 years and 4 months.
Oh, wow. So at what point did you decide, you know what? I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, for a long time.
Yeah. So so the idea happened early on. So probably my first 4 years, because I liked the discipline, I liked the uniform, I liked what we stood for. You can't beat the benefits. At the time when I first came in, I still have a pay stub of when I first joined. My take home pay was $225. Right?
Yeah. I've had this conversation before too, and I tell people like, yeah, when I was in tech school and I saw, they're taking out $100 a month for the GI Bill, right?
That's right.
And I look at I look at like how much I made, and I was like, oh wow, 277 whole dollars. I was excited. I was like, hey, because I didn't have any
Sure.
bills, I didn't have any kids, I didn't
That's
have
right.
any bills. It was amazing, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's cash money.
yeah.
Cash money. So early on, there were, there were techs and masters that I looked up to that had been around, the Air Force for a while. And, I never really dreamed at that point of going beyond mass sergeant. I said, hey man, retiring at 20 years as a mass sergeant, super respectable. That's my kind of my goal. So I really took it 4 years at a time, but I always had that in the back of my mind, like never say no, never say never type thing. Because you met, man, through your journey, you met so many folks, and I'm sure that you ran into all types. I'm getting out after 4
Oh
years,
yeah.
and years comes and goes. They have a family, bills change, life changes. They stick around
Yeah.
for 8, then it's 12, right? So I
Yeah.
didn't know that I would go till 30, because obviously you have to make chief to do that. Um, that didn't happen till around year 15 when I was started
Mhm.
testing for senior.
Yeah.
And then by that point, I was married to Marie, and we're talking about starting a family, and then that changes the whole different dynamic as well. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. So what would you say was your best or your favorite duty station?
wow. So I had 14 duty stations.
That's
I
crazy.
don't know. Yeah, yeah, I PCSed a lot, right? Especially in my younger years, family wasn't attached. So man, I would probably have to say my favorite duties, and for various reasons, right? I mean, I never had a bad assignment, luckily.
Mhm.
My favorite one has to probably be Spangdahlem Air Base in Germany,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've been stationed in Norway. I've been stationed in Naples, Italy. I've been stationed in Hawaii. Was my first duty station.
What?
Korea a couple different times.
Man, you're like the
Yeah,
one percenters, right? They said I remember when I was in basic. So my TI was like going off on somebody and saying, "Hey, you think you're gonna be stationed in Hawaii? It's like 1% of anybody ever joins the Air Force is stationed in
that's
Hawaii." Oh yeah.
yeah. What's even more remarkable about that was I came in as an airman basic.
Yeah,
And
wow.
as an airman basic, there was one slot, and it has to line up, I mean, absolutely perfectly.
Oh yeah.
And I put Hawaii as my number one on my dream sheet, and with the orders come down, and my tech school was mad. She's like, I've been trying to get there for years. You're going as an airman basic. So
Oh
that's
man.
kind of how I knew the Air Force was
Yeah.
for me, right?
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, so where all were you stationed?
Gosh, I was in, so yeah, this is just take a quick minute. So
Yeah.
obviously basic training, then off to Shepherd Air Force Base for tech training. Then I went off to Hawaii, went to Dover the first time, um, went to Korea the first time because I knew I had to get out of Dover, went to Norway. From Norway, went to Beale Air Force Base, California, back
Oh,
to
I know where
Dover
that
Air
is.
Force Base. From Dover back to Osan Air Base, Korea, and that's where I met Marie. From Osan, I went to Spangdahlem.
Yeah.
Spangdahlem was phenomenal. Then I went to Barksdale. Then I went to
Mm.
the third time. Then I went
Oh
to
my
Keesler, 2nd
gosh.
Air Force, where we met each other.
Yeah.
And then from Keesler, I went to Tampa, and that's where I retired out of MacDill Air Force
Tampa
Base.
Stan.
I had
Retired
eight
at Tampa
different,
Stan.
yeah, I deployed 8 different times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was a busy
Wow.
time.
Man, that's crazy. I went through Dover one time. So like right after 9/11, I deployed to the Middle East and we went through Dover. And I
Oh
thought to
yeah,
myself, this is the quietest base I've ever been to. Because it was a C5 base and all the planes were broke. So including
right.
ours, we
That's right. That's right.
it's like 55% sortie rate, 100% of the time.
That's that. That's exactly right. So they were always on target then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I spent the night my unit spent the night in the PAX terminal. so uncomfortable trying to sleep on a plastic
Oh,
chair,
yeah.
a bucket chair.
Absolutely the worst.
And then
Right.
we were going on into the second night, and finally our you know leadership was like, "Hey, let's go to billeting." So we went to billeting,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't know that. I remember taking a shower that night and thinking, I wonder when the next time I'll be able to take a shower by myself is. Because went
That
to the
that's right.
deed and it was tent city, man. It was terrible.
Oh,
Uh,
golly,
it
I
was
remember that.
it was fun though. I have some like really
Sure.
good memories of that first deployment.
Sure.
One thing about I miss about the military is like the camaraderie, right? We
Yes.
all, we bonded through this shared trauma.
That's right.
Like,
That's 100% right. That's right.
like all the like inconveniences that you can think of and not think of, we went through
Yeah.
together. And like some of those guys, I can call them up now and say, hey, what's going on, and just have a conversation and like hang out if we
It's an
want to,
amazing brotherhood.
so
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
Amazing brotherhood,
crazy.
right?
So,
Yeah. I mean, gosh, when was the
so
last time? So, gosh, we haven't spoke since your retirement.
yeah, no, that's
And I
that's
and
right.
I
That was just over 10 years ago.
Yeah, and, it's like you pick up right where you kinda left off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just always good conversation and, yeah, shared trauma is a really good way to put it.
Yeah. For my retirement ceremony, I was so nervous. I was like, man, having my retirement ceremony in a church. And
Sure.
then I was like, I'm going to be singing. I don't know if that's normal, but,
Hey,
sang with
is it
a couple of friends of mine.
here's what I learned from your retirement ceremony, right? So non-traditional in the sense of, everybody's got the script, blah, 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 blah. From yours was, man, be who you are. I mean, that's the fabric of your nature.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want, because in fair we don't get to see a lot, the true spirit behind what a person is, like the family, their how spiritual
Yeah.
they can be and what they're involved in. All we see in is the daily grind of, are you turning in your TPS reports, right, and that kind of stuff. So, man, I really enjoyed that. I
Yeah.
thought that's the way to do it. Is, I mean, when you go out, you're transitioning back out of the uniform, you're going to be who you are now. You drop your rank, the whole routine. Proud of your
Yeah.
service, but man, be who you are. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what I was going to do for my retirement until COVID hit.
Oh, no. You retired in 2020?
Yep. And that's why it was
Dang.
29 years and 4 months, because COVID hit, they canceled everything. So I was going to retire in 8 months, but Marie's
Oh,
active duty too. And then we had 3 kids that were in, grade school and middle school. So at that time, if you remember, they kicked all the kids out of school. So we're on spring break.
yeah.
They're like, don't come back. So at the time, I'm the mission support group superintendent.
Oh,
Marie's the superintendent of the Military Family Readiness Center.
yeah.
So we still have duties, but now we got to be home full time for the kids. So
Wow.
I told Marie, I said, what do I do for 8 months? I come in and, phone calls and emails about what's going on with it, or do I just retire tomorrow, basically, and then stay home with the kids? Because the kids still had to do schoolwork. They still
Yeah.
had to be on
Yep.
Teams meetings and somebody had to conduct them. So I thought it would be unfair for Marie to, I take 1 week off, you take 1 week off, trying to catch up. So I ended up just retiring early and staying home with the kids.
Wow,
That's
that's
how I
crazy. I never even thought about that, as we're going through that whole thing. The transition, it was a little bit different for me because I was already hybrid. We were living in Tennessee, just outside Nashville. I was commuting to the office, what, 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week I was at home. And then it so happened that I was in the office on a Friday, and like two of my teammates were there. The rest of the 12 people were at home because everybody loved to work from home on Fridays, and we were just suckers,
right.
I guess. And then my boss sends an email, and he's like, "Hey, you guys go home. Don't come back until we tell you to come back." And then he comes down to like see us off or whatever. He's like, I told you to go home. And we're like, oh, we're gonna go eat. So we're gonna go get some Vietnamese. We're gonna go grab some pho. So I went and
Oh
had
yeah.
pho with these two guys, and then I never saw them again because we
Crazy,
all
right?
went to work from home and
Yeah,
then just never saw him again.
that's right.
I left the company
That's right.
probably a year after that. But man, yeah, that's so
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
So your transition was definitely different. Your transition out was definitely different.
sure.
What was that like? I know like one of the things of being isolated, one of the
Hmm.
struggles of being isolated is like mental health stuff, right? And then you
Sure.
put that together with a transition, major career transition, and then you have some mental health stuff. So
Yeah.
what were the things that you were like focusing on to try to keep your head above water?
That's a great question. So, it was obviously I knew the end was near, starting at right year 25, right? Because yeah, higher tenure, you're done. So mentally I started training about the 5 year prior mark. And there's two sides to that, and I'll share that with you here shortly. So, okay, hey, one day this is going to come to a close, and I got to be ready for it because guess what? You lose your rank, you lose your title, you lose your desk, and or Mike, who happens to be a spouse of an active duty member, who is also now a father of children, right? So I had to get my mind right about that. And then really, as I transitioned, okay, so what is like the next step? And this is where I wanted to touch on. So here's what I would tell anybody that's listening as far as transition is concerned. So about 5 years prior to when you're going to separate or retire is really when you have to get your affairs in order. So financial number one, education number two, and then what's going to be your plan, right? So for me, I hadn't worked in the logistics field in 10 years, right? So as soon as I made
Mhm,
chief, I started moving around doing all these other jobs that really didn't translate well to the outside world unless I was going to run a charter school or something, right? I ran a,
mhm.
I ran a career field. I ran an airman leadership school. I was in headquarters level logistics, but nothing boots on the ground. My
Yeah,
degree was in HR, right? So you really got to think about, okay, so where is it going to come to a head? So as I transitioned, the toughest part for me to your question was what's next, right? And
yeah,
I didn't need the titles, I didn't need the rank. What I needed was a job. So what
yeah,
Marie and I did was we sat down and we said, okay, here's our paychecks, here's our basic allowance for housing. We lose the housing allowance, I'm only going to get 75% of what I'm active duty. And nobody knows what the VA formula is going to be or what that was. So then
yeah,
we had to,
yeah. You never know.
right? So we had to come up with a figure that was going to afford us the same lifestyle and be happy with it, right? So once all the VA stuff got settled relatively during COVID, um, it really turned out that I would need like a paper route in order to make the money that I was making on active duty, right? To kind of live that life, which that me at ease a lot. So my
Yeah,
stress level was way down after that, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I go be the Walmart greeter, right? Go, turn burgers at the Roadhouse, whatever. Really, whatever I wanted to do versus what I had to do at the time.
yeah,
Um, so as I went through that process, that was on like the forefront of my mind, and kind of just saying, okay, look, don't stress about it because you have the plan and you know where you want to be.
hmm,
Um, and a lot of that has changed over the last, I've been retired 5 years now. So I've gone
yeah.
through some different things, but I would say that. So, having your plan and then really dealing with the mental health is actually, so talking about, hey, this is where we are and this is where we need to be. And then obviously, you turn the boat towards that course of action.
Yeah, I think really also for me was like communication with my wife because like when I retired, I told her I was like, hey, if you want to work, you can work, but she tended to the house and the finances and the kids when I was
Mhm.
always gone. And so I was like, you know what? Now that I'm retired, if you don't want to work, you don't have to work. If you want to work, you can, but you never have to
Sure.
work again for the rest of your life.
That's right.
And so we always, had these conversations about like my career, how's it going, where I'm going, all the things, how am I feeling, what is this and that, because, she's at the end of the day, she's my partner in this life. So,
Mhm.
we'd have to talk about like, all the different things and like if I need to make a
Right.
change or whatever. And so it's one thing that one thing that's I don't know if it's like a culture thing or it's a nature of dudes, but dudes like to just hold things in. And that's the
Sure.
absolute worst thing that you can do if you're like going through
Absolutely.
turmoil.
That's
So,
100%, right? So because nothing gets solved.
right. Nothing.
Nothing in
Yeah.
your head will get solved, especially as you're getting older now, because we're not as active as we were.
No.
You could relieve stress through exercise, through PT,
Yeah.
through different things, but man, you get old like us, all we're doing is sitting around now thinking about, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next, right?
Yeah, exactly. Except for me,
And
I got
that
to
weighs heavy.
walk a mile from my car. But other than that, other
As you're
than that,
doing
yeah.
PT, you're still doing PT.
Yeah. Oh man. But
Yeah,
yeah. Today I got rained on the way to my car. It was awesome.
it was
And
pretty gnarly.
the weatherman, the weather app said that it was not going to rain until uh, I should have already been in my car. But then we're on the coast, so the the weather changed. And good thing I brought my rain pants and my rain jacket. But bad thing is I left them in the car. So
Right.
anyway,
It's
I
good
was
for the
like, oh
transition
yeah,
into the
half.
house after you're soaked.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, halfway smart. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, that's
oh
awesome.
man. So what's what's what was the first position that you got coming out of the Air Force?
Yeah, so right away there was no cross bridge, there was no, none of that, right?
Yeah.
So I started looking and I was deep diving, and a couple of friends were like, "Hey, you can get into the finance world with me, and or you can go over here and do sales." And yeah, I'm not like, I don't ever want to be
Yeah.
like I'm trying to hustle you. Like if I want to have a genuine conversation with you, and if I could find the right job allowed me to do that, that would be fantastic, right? So it was really weird. I got a call from the deputy MSG at McDill, and he was a civilian, Fred Falwell. And Fred called me up and he said, "Hey," he goes, "I might have an opportunity for you if you're interested." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I never say no, right? I'll look at anything." Uh, so I got. You've heard of the Gasparilla Parade down in Tampa?
No, I haven't.
So it's like the pirates. It's like a Mardi Gras but pirate version in Tampa, and they got a big pirate ship downtown.
Oh
It's a
yeah, yeah.
huge deal.
Okay.
So anyway, he was the guy that runs all of Gasparilla for Tampa is a retired mission support group commander, '06. So Fred's good friends with him. Fred heard of a job, and Don called him, and Don wanted to meet me for lunch. And so anyway, long story short, I go to meet him for lunch and just chatting it up, kind of like what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey," he goes, "I got a call from a government contractor friend of mine, and they're looking for a recently retired E9 who's got headquarters experience to potentially fall into this position at CENTCOM on McDill." So I
Yeah.
was like, "All right, sounds great. You know what I mean? What is it?"
Mhm.
And he was like, "It's a program manager." So I had just taken my PMP and kind of gone through that. And everything that we handle in the Air Force is a program or a project, right? So
Right.
so I'm like, yeah, I would love to interview. So anyway, I jumped on a call with the CEO and the director of HR. Had no
Yeah.
idea who I was getting on a call with. He just gave me the number and said, "Call him immediately," right? So they introduced themselves, and it was WWC Global at the time. And it was started by three ladies who happened to be spouses of military members who went overseas. Tell me if you heard the story. Who went overseas, and they were, lawyers, they were business people in the States, but they go overseas because their husband's active duty and they can't get a job,
Yeah.
right? So they
Yep.
got fed up. I mean, they couldn't even get jobs in the commissary.
Yep.
So they got fed up and started a government contracting firm, and they started it in Naples, Italy, and then it transitioned back to the States and blew up to this. It's unbelievable. So
Wow.
I'm interviewing with them and learned from them that the contract that they were going to get at CENTCOM didn't happen. Somebody outbid them, or whatever the case was. So I was like, oh, so now there's really no pressure in this phone call when I'm on there talking to them about stuff. So we're just cutting it up, talking about our experiences, and we were all in Naples at the same time, which was really
Oh
odd.
wow.
And I was like, yeah, I probably walked past the cafe where you guys were drinking, espresso talking about doing. So so yeah, we get off the phone and I get a call from the HR director and she says, "Hey, can't guarantee anything, but there's going to be a position opening up. Check the website, apply for it." So I did. Got called for the interview. Got hired to be a program manager there.
Cool.
So, as you know, government contracting can be quite lucrative.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal job, phenomenal company, but they got too big. So they were either going to, and in the government contracting world, if you go outside your status, and theirs was, female-owned business.
Hmm.
If they get larger because they've gotten so many contracts, then they're either going to be acquired, have to sell, or they're going to compete with like Northrop Grumman and Boeing and all these
Oh,
other companies that,
wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they ended up selling to an American Indian tribe out of
Oh,
Massachusetts.
okay.
Um, so when they took over, it was just so great people. It just changed the whole dynamic. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
so I worked that job. I worked that job for about 3 years. We were transitioning here to Mississippi. Uh, had a discussion with one of the because then now they have they have unlimited small business status. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
big they get, they can just keep propping up little small businesses, little LLCs to take over these companies or whatever.
Wow.
So as a program manager, now we're spread throughout and you got to work for 6 different directors, which isn't normally a problem. But long story short, me and one didn't see eye to eye. And he basically was like, I can have you fired tomorrow. And I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. Because so what had happened was we were starting a new contract. I had to get the funding approved for the salaries. I had
Mhm.
sent it to him like a month prior. So the big boss shoots me a note, CCs him and says, "Hey, how come I haven't received these figures?" And I replied to all and I said, "Hey, I sent him to Steve. I think Steve's just been busy. He's got a lot on his plate. I'm sure he's going to send him to you shortly." Right?
Trying
Covering
to be
down.
diplomatic. Yeah.
Right, right. Not
Like,
saying not throwing
these
him
are
under
the
the
facts.
bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steve replies to all and he's like, "You never sent them to me. I don't know what you're talking about." So so I was like, "Oh, I just gave you the out." So I
Ah.
replied to him and I said, "Hey Steve, if you can give me a call when you're free, that would be great." So he calls me up and he's like reading me the riot act for like 10 minutes. And I didn't say anything. I just said hello.
Mm.
So anyway, long story short, I'm like, I don't think you're going to be able to fire me, Steve, but okay, I get it. You're frustrated, whatever. So we get off the
Yeah.
phone and I call my boss and I said, "Hey, I'm just letting you know I'm giving you my 2 weeks." And I had talked to Marie about it, right? And then,
Yeah.
the director, the boss's boss is calling me, everybody's calling me, "Hey, was it because of this guy?" And I said, "Look, I'm not trying to get anybody fired." Like at that point,
Yeah.
the money was great.
Yeah.
I just wanted to spend more time with the kids. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I resigned from that position and yeah, and then I stayed unemployed for about a year and a half.
Wow. Yeah. You know what? One thing I learned about like company culture. So I have I have an opportunity every quarter to mentor some students that are going through a like an analytics course in Nashville Software School,
Hmm. Excellent.
and they asked me some of the same questions over and over, and like, well, it's not the same people, so it's like
Sure.
the same types of questions come, and the thing that people want to know is like, hey, what's it like working for a small company? What's it like working for like a big corporation? This and that, because the smallest company I ever worked for was like less than 100 people. The biggest corporation I ever worked for had like 300,000 people. And so, one thing I learned though, I tell them all the time, I say, if you work for a small company, you may like the culture like right off the bat, like, "Ooh, this is great. This is awesome." And then one person leaves and the entire thing changes. It's like completely
Yes.
changes. Or like they say, "Yeah, we got acquired by whatever." And then it's like, "Oh, everything's different." Or even like,
Hmm.
"Hey, we moved our headquarters and we're doing this different thing with, our business model." And then it's just like, "Man, what happened to what it was like?" And
Yeah.
so you have to the reason why they ask that question is because they're like, "Oh, I think I want to work for a smaller company because of this or because of these reasons, a bigger
Mhm.
company because of
Mhm.
these reasons.
Sure.
And then I say, okay, well, at the end of the day, you have to enjoy your job, whatever it is. And if
That's it.
somebody leaves that you really like,
That's right.
and it's going to happen because I've worked with
That's right.
some of my favorite people in the world. I have worked with them, and they left,
Yes.
and I was like
Mhm.
heartbroken. What am I going to
Yeah,
do
that's right.
now? Ah,
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right, 'cause it'll
yeah.
never be the same.
No,
Yep.
it'll never be the same. And
That's
so
right.
inside jokes aren't inside jokes anymore. You got new people coming in. Dynamic is
That's right.
completely different. So at the end of the
That's right.
day, I mean, big, little, medium size, you have
Mhm.
to enjoy what you do. And yes, you do have to get along with the people you work with,
Sure.
but you definitely, and if there's like conflict like that, whew, yeah, that you gotta figure out a way to
Well,
resolve
you have
it.
decisions. That's
Yeah,
right.
you gotta
That's right.
make some
You ha
decisions. Yeah.
you have decisions, right? And, in my earlier days, I might have been a little bit more confrontational, right?
Mhm.
But what I've learned through the military, through meeting people that, a lot it's a lot easier to take the high road,
Yeah.
right? Because people are already aware of your character, and you don't have to fight everybody and prove yourself and defend and whatever, right? So, you show a little grace, you bow out, you kind of do your thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's a really great questions that you get. I mean, it comes down to what their tolerance is going to be for change,
Yeah.
right? That's the one thing that we used to so. And when I used to teach classes in the military, and then after that, and I would say, look, who's resistant to change? First
Mhm.
question, right? So the majority of people in the class are like, "Man, I don't want to do anything different, right? I hate change." Well, because that's your first barrier. So the second
Yeah.
somebody is leaving or is new or change pencils or the color of the paper is going to be, um, you're automatically resistant, right?
Yeah.
So once you figure that out, what do I like about the position because of what I'm doing versus, yeah,
Mhm.
transitioning because somebody else did.
Yeah, the first time I realized uh that actually was not when I was working for that smaller company. I was in tech school. I just remembered this just now. I was in tech school. So my first job in the Air Force, I was air launch cruise missile maintenance. And so I did
Okay.
electronic principles at Lackland. We lived on the Medina side and got
Hmm.
bussed over to the building with no windows by the B-52 on
Yep.
the,
Yep. I know exactly what
and
you're talking about.
and so I was there for like, man, how long was I there? Like 3 months. But there were, because it was electronics principles, it wasn't
Mhm.
just my career field. It was like
That's
all
right.
the twos, right? Two
Yeah.
E's and two A's,
Yep.
and then I was a
Oh
two
yeah.
M. And so these guys who were like two A's, they're going to be working on F-16s. So after like 6 weeks, they went to Shepherd, and I never
Hmm.
saw them again.
That's right.
And I didn't know like what the deal was going to be like when I met them. But I was like, oh, these are cool dudes. I'm going to hang out with them. So I'm hanging out with these guys for like a month and a half. Every waking moment, we're hanging out. We're doing
Sure.
all this stuff together. And
Yeah.
then they're like, yeah, we're going. And
That's
I
right.
remember standing outside their dorm, and like they were getting on the bus, and I was like, oh,
Oh
ah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It was so
Yes.
I was like breaking down.
That's
And
right.
this one dude, he looks at me, he's like, hey man, be strong, be strong. And then he got on the bus, peace out. I never saw him again. That was 30 something years ago.
That's right. That's
I was
right.
like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, that was rough. And then I had to go
Absolutely.
find new friends. I'm like, hey,
That's
my
every
name is
6 weeks
Tito.
you turn around.
Yeah, I was like, my name is Tito, and I'm looking for friends who are gonna be here until February because I'm leaving in
Right.
February.
That's right.
So yeah, and
Oh,
then when I
so
left,
true.
it actually made me closer to my class, and there were like 8 of us.
Okay.
And so then
That's awesome. Yeah.
once I got closer to my class, and then we all left together, went to Vandenberg, which is a smaller
Okay.
smaller tech
Oh yeah.
school. But yeah, that was rough, man. That was crazy. But yeah, it's like,
Well, that's the one thing the Air Force is going to teach you is change really
yeah.
fast.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Man, well, it's been really good talking to you. I want to ask you one more question before we get out of here. Um, so if you if somebody was thinking about a major like career change, I call it shift the journey because sometimes it's like shifts, sometimes it's actually huge transitions. But if somebody's like thinking about making a career
Yeah,
transition and they don't know where to start, what
yeah.
one piece of advice would you give them? Uh-oh.
There we go.
Am I frozen? Are you frozen?
I'm losing.
Yeah.
You can hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what did
Sorry.
you
What was the
miss?
question again? Yeah.
Okay. So if there was somebody who is out there who's wanting to make a career transition, but they don't know where to start, what's one piece of advice that you would
Yeah.
give to them?
Yeah. So first thing, obviously, there's a lot of classes that are available through the military TAP and stuff like that. Here's what I'll tell you: figure out what you want to do when you're getting ready to retire, right? A couple of years away, and then get on pages like LinkedIn and then start following folks that are in those actual career fields, maybe even in the company that you're looking for. And what I would do is don't just cold contact somebody and connect, right? Anytime you're going to connect with somebody, send them a note saying, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. Here's why I would like to connect. And I'm trying to get information, about your company because I'm looking at potentially, applying for a job there. Can you give me some pros and cons? Establish relationships, which is probably the biggest thing. And not just maybe in that company, but establish relationships and a network that you can reach out to at any time and always ask questions. Um, part of my job that I'm in now. So if you don't mind me just talking about that real quick. So
Mhm.
last January, I was like, I'm bored sitting around the house now. We don't need the money, but I'm bored because I'm just going crazy. So I started looking on LinkedIn, as a matter of fact, LinkedIn jobs, and a job popped up for a military outreach representative for Columbia Southern University. So CSU is a school that I got my bachelor's degree from when we were still on active duty, and I did it through like the AUABC on
Oh, right.
CCAF,
Yeah.
right? So it said military outreach rep. So I read the job description, and it basically is going around to education fairs and bases and conferences and talking to folks about using their tuition assistance, right?
Are you
So
serious?
absolutely 100%.
I might need
So
to make a transition into that. That sounds like fun.
so so that's what I do, right? I mean, this year I traveled upwards 80 days and I go to yellow ribbon events, which is
Oh,
Army
okay.
Guard, Air National Guard, right? Transitioning to deploy, redeploy, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I go to education fairs. I go to all the big conferences. Yeah, I went to Honduras this year to do an
What?
education fair at Soto Cano Air Base.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
and
That's really cool.
the great thing about this, working for the university I graduated from, is number one, I'm speaking from firsthand experience, right?
Mhm.
Like my
Yeah.
experience with them, 100% online. The other thing is too is that I'm not tied to making sure we're not recruiters, we're military outreach reps. So like if you came to me and you were like, hey, I'm going to Liberty, uh, great. Tell me about your experience at Liberty, right? So like we're not like just kind of shushing people away. We're like, no, the goal is use your tuition assistance,
Yeah.
get your degrees because that's going to prepare you for the outside.
Yeah.
So that's really been the whole thing that I've been doing with them, and yeah, it's been great because I'm still in contact with folks in uniform,
Yeah.
right? I get to speak a little bit of Army, get a little hua every once in a while. Um, yeah, so those are the kind of positions. This is what I would tell you if people are transitioning. So as you're transitioning and as you're making these contacts and setting up your networks, just look at the odd jobs too. Look at something that may just catch your eye and then inquire about it or read the job description. I'll close with this. Do not look at the number of applicants because it tells you on LinkedIn
Yeah.
how many
It's
position.
false.
There's bots out there, and companies that'll actually are applying for you and firing. Don't look
Yeah.
at that. When you
Yeah.
transition, apply for the positions you're looking for. Tailor your resume to that job description. Do not just have one that says you were the greatest logistician in sliced bread. And then once you do that, don't get caught up on the whole star process for job interviews.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you that whole sequence. Here's what I'll tell you. If you have the ability to articulate a situation that you were in and then tell what the outcome was,
Mhm.
that's the star process.
Yeah.
So don't get hung up on trying to follow that script, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just, if they're asking you a question, just be prepared do your homework on the company you want to join. Do the homework on the person that's interviewing you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then once you've done that, then they're going to ask you questions like, tell me about a difficult time that you really didn't have a lot of direction from and how you handled it, right?
Mhm.
And then right away, just play off your experiences. So, like, the things that would pop into my head was, when Big Air Force would come down and change the EPR system.
Yeah.
Hey, starting tomorrow, the new EPR system's out, and we are not giving you guidance. Nothing's in the AFI.
Yeah.
All right, well, how did you handle that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just walk through it, and the outcome was, well, until we had this, we all met and we all came to the same. You know what I mean? So it's just playing it over in your head,
Yeah.
relaxing and having a conversation. I would say that those are probably the most important things as you're going through a transition.
Nice. That's good. That's good advice. Now, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Tito.
Um,
My pleasure.
yeah, it was good hearing your stories, and every time I talk to somebody, another Air Force veteran, I always like dig all the way back here and go, "Hey, I have this memory I haven't talked about in 30 years. This is crazy."
That's right. That's
So
right.
it's like,
Absolutely.
oh man, it's
Absolutely.
like scratching a part of my brain that I didn't know was still active. What is that? Craziness.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, we're close to each other again. So if you ever want to get together and get a bite to eat or something, just shoot the breeze, always just let me know.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm gonna go ahead and kill the stream, but hang out, Mike. I'll see you in the
Yeah,
studio.
sure.
But for everybody else, next week, tune in next week. Next week is our season finale. That's season 2 finale. Crazy enough. So next week we have another Air Force veteran, Eric Kim. He's coming on the show, and we're gonna have a good conversation. I hope to see you guys there. Until then.